Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3. Kill!
Born to those who pledged their lives in sacred honor, was smiled upon by God and freed from chains and iron collar. He is held aloft on unity and by history revered for preserving peace through strength. His wings now reach across 200 years. But for each of those in 1 year more, God has smiled upon the core. From the Barbary coast to the eastern sand, by sword, by gun, or by bare hand. So it's been and shall be weighed. Though many are born, few are made. Faithful always they shall remain. Dogs to loose when war is waged. With a need to bleed you when the light goes green. Best believe I'm in the zone to be. From a yin to me yang to me yang to see. Put a grin on my chin. Come to me cause I'll win. I'm one of a kind and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in a fire that long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Hardcore is the only way I know. I feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice.
I am a devil dog, I'm marching on. darkness and hell can overrun you.
Now I'm in bleeding, I mean to inflict the grief, and the least of me is still out of your reach. The killing machine's gonna do the deed until the river runs dry and the last breath leaves. Head in the air with a head held high, I'll stand in the path of the enemy line. Feel no fear, know my pride. For God and country, I'll end your life. I am a devil dog, I'm marching on. I am a warrior and this is my song. Hell has no deed and I won't overcome.
Never forget that.
I am a warrior and this is my song. I'll make the devil himself turn and run. I am a warrior and this is my song. Into the fire I will keep marching on. Hoorah! Marine Corps, get some!
Now take me to the brig so I can see the real Marines.
Good night, Chesty, wherever you are.
And welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Live from studio number 2 at the Allegheny National Forest. Can you guys just see, trying to get my volume here. This is, all right, that's better. All right, Rocky, you can come in now. I know Rocky's probably outside checking his perimeter after listening to that. Got a Bowie knife in his mouth or a K-bar. Headband, you know the deal. Welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr., in studio number 2 from Allegheny National Forest, and I still feel like this audio is not right. Let's try to make a little adjustment there, and I think that's a little bit better. Let me know in the chat room. I'll get over there as soon as I can. Again, I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., your host, alongside the mighty Allegheny River. Please follow me on Spreaker, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. It's taking off just in massive proportions. The email, scrtv@live.com, the Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. If you want to check the, or if you, all right, why did I put that word in there? I don't know what that means. Anyway, if you're listening to the podcast, you can also check in on the voicemail line, 412-567-1460. I kind of expected a little bit more activity there. We have exponentially more podcast listeners than we do live listeners. So I was just curious. If you want to chime in, I'd especially like to hear from you if you're from another country or if you're serving in the military and listening to the podcast at a different time because of your life's requirements. That's 412-567-1460, and we'll play it on the show. You can catch the podcast every morning at the405media.com from L.A., on demand at iHeartRadio. You can catch it on the Cold War Radio app, free in your app store. We send selected interviews and whatnot to rdelephant.com. You can check them out in the podcast section. Also go to YouTube where there are captions. We have a growing family there. Thank you to you guys. Unfortunately, Spreaker is not going to be tabulating any more YouTube statistics because they don't trust them. Imagine that. If you're on Twitter, which I'm not, I'm in jail currently until next Monday, use the hashtag Cold War Radio, and you guys can get together there. The most important thing that you could do for the show, though, is go to steelcityresistance.com and become a Cold War Radio patron. That's just the mechanism that we use for people that like to support the show. We got a pretty good setup there. I know some people have a problem with Patreon. So far, we have not yet. But I have all the data. If I ever needed to tell everybody where to go somewhere else, I can get in touch with all of you. So there's that. But that's what really helps out. Also, you can check out the research room there. A lot of information there. The video page, if you want to see the videos of the audio clips on the show. If you'd like to write to the program, you can write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 10433, 370, that's 370, Castle Shannon Boulevard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15234. What a wonderful time to be in the world of communication in the United States of America. Let's go to the western end of Allegheny County, and let's welcome my co-host, Sal, to the program. Hello, Sal. Sign in, please.
Hey, Hutch. Hey, everyone. How's it going tonight? Yes, it is Cold War Radio's Corn Pop. I am here, and I am ready to go.
Poor Joe. Poor Joe. I'll tell you, let me get some administrative things out of the way first. As you know, we are trying to get Mona Salama, our communication director, to the Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. in October the 11th. We don't have that much time. I understand it's the end of the month, but we're looking for $500 to get her there, and some of her tremendous interviews that she's provided in the past. We're $10 in to our $500 goal. So if you can go to SteelCityResistance.com, and this is not to be confused with becoming a patron. Becoming a patron puts you on the VIP list of people that make this show possible every month. This is a one-time thing, a pay-for-play, if you will. We get Mona there and let me tell you, that is a very good price, as you're going to find out when we open our CPAC marathon to try to get there. We've got quite a bit already, but that costs a lot. But this is a deal. This is a bargain, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me on that. I'm telling you. We're $10 into $500. If you go to SteelCityResistance.com, there's a donate button at the top of the right-hand column, and everything that's donated via that button is going to go toward getting Mona to Washington, D.C. from New York, and her lodging and whatnot. So you'll see we're $10 in. Anything that you can do there is either going to make or break that trip. I hope we can do it, and then CPAC will be after that, but then we have clearly until February to do that. Again, if you're listening via the podcast, you can still become a patron and you can still help. We need you more than ever. You're like I said at the beginning of the show, you're the biggest cohort in this audience. So please, if you can help do that. I would also like to hear from you. We have that hotline there, the voicemail, but also scrtv@live.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to know, who's listening to the show. I remember, Sal, we had one of the most interesting calls I ever had. It was a gentleman, and I can't remember what state it was. It was in the Midwest somewhere, I think. It might have been Arizona. It might have been that far west. But he was a locomotive engineer and was, running his train across the country listening to the show. I was thrilled. I mean, that kind of thing, when you're in this business, when I hear stuff like that, it just makes me, you just energize me for another year of production. You know what I mean, Sal?
Wait,
it's awesome.
Yeah. Wait. Was he on the Trump train?
He was on his own train. I mean, he might have had a Trump banner on it, but he was on a real train. I just thought trains are something that always fascinated me, being from Pittsburgh, seeing so many of them, moving all the coal and back in the day, it used to be car frames. Remember that? There'd be whole train loads of car frames going to Detroit.
Now they're just passing through, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame. And it's a shame because you see a lot of businesses, even where I am here in northwestern Pennsylvania, just south of New York, you see abandoned factories or mills, and there's still train tracks leading up to them. And there's one up here where there's a train car that was abandoned right there. It's a real sad legacy. I'm glad to see the president bringing it back, though. I really am. That's something that's so important. All right, so that being said, I have to tell you, Sal, I'm very embarrassed when it comes to our news media and our politicians lately. They made this big hullabaloo, and I'm talking about, newscasts that I respected previously, and you hear him come out here, and you hear him talking about how Nancy Pelosi just changed the game with one of the most brilliant political maneuvers I've seen in a long time. What Nancy Pelosi did was basically put the brakes on the impeachment program. And what I mean by that is what she announced was already in effect. Nothing is different after Nancy Pelosi's speech than before, except for the media and the politicians. So let's listen to Jerry Nadler from August.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler publicly confirmed Thursday that his panel is conducting formal impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump.
We are investigating all the evidence. We're gathering the evidence, and we will, at the conclusion of this, hopefully by the end of the year, vote articles of impeachment to the House floor, or we won't. That's a decision that we'll have to make.
Here's what that process looks like. Nadler says articles of impeachment have already been referred to the Judiciary Committee, but the committee may draft its own to more closely fit the evidence. Then, as Nadler mentioned, the committee will decide whether to bring those articles of impeachment to the House floor. The Constitution specifies that the House of Representatives has the sole power to impeach an official. It's important to note impeachment is the process, not the outcome. If it goes to the House floor and a simple majority of representatives vote yes, then the president is impeached and the process would move on to the Senate. The Senate would hold a trial and essentially act as the jury, while some House members act as prosecutors. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts would be the judge, and a two-thirds majority is required for the Senate to convict. To put it simply, if the articles of impeachment make it to the House floor, they have a good shot of being voted through. But the president is unlikely to be convicted in the Republican majority Senate. That's why House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been resistant to moving forward with the process without bipartisan support. Nadler said the committee isn't waiting for Pelosi's go-ahead, but that she's been cooperative with the press.
Now, I obviously am not familiar with the Andrew Johnson impeachment situation, but I am familiar with the rest of them. And what you got to understand is when Nixon was about to be impeached, the whole country was against that guy. I mean, the Republicans rather showed their true colors, kind of like some of them are doing today, in that they're just fake Democrats at heart. And so there was public momentum for Nixon. Nixon would have got convicted, and he resigned. There was not the same public support en masse, bilateral support for Clinton. And you saw what happened after Clinton. When the Republicans tried to impeach him, that the whole country wasn't behind him. And even Arlen Specter voted to acquit. What typical Pennsylvania Republicans do. They're traitors, every one of them, it seems like. So I don't know, Sal, this is something that they can try. I think it's looking rather ridiculous myself. I mean, especially when you look at some of the backstories and some of the reasoning that is used by these Democrats. It's a perfect illustration of projection on steroids, man. I mean, I've never understood this. I always cringed every time I see the Democrats accuse us of what they have evidence. There's evidence that they've done these things that they're accusing us of doing. And I don't see how but on the one hand, in general, I stand behind that. But specifically for this case, this is something that I told you about last week. I mean, this is the Democrats' chance, man. They're going to get rid of Biden right now.
Oh yeah, they're ready to take him out. I think they have him set up to go. Because what is his answer to this? What is his answer to this? And I already heard a little bit earlier today that he denies any knowledge of what his son was up to. And that is just a flat out lie. It is a downright lie. And he is going to be eaten alive. Now, let's take a look at the flip side of this, though. Given that he is the presumptive nominee at this point, remember I'm saying right now, when is the next time any one of these candidates in a public forum, in a debate, are going to be able to address this? I think it may be a while. So this story might die down a little bit and he might, I don't want to say might be saved, because I think there's no saving him. He's gone, his mind's gone. I just don't know whether they're going to want to go into this, because it exposes them all. It exposes the hypocrisy of them all the Democrats and all that they stand for, and even some of the Republicans. Because now we're getting into swamp waters. We're getting into deep swamp waters. We're getting into exactly what the current president is trying to get rid of. And that's part of his duty. Part of that call to the Ukraine is to fet out this type of just crony capitalism,
corruption,
and root it out and not be a part of it.
And let me just explain to the audience my opinion on what's happening after listening to a lot of people today, and pondering different things and coming up with my own synopsis of really what's going on. You can see what the president was doing. The president was the victim, and not just the president. Every single Trump supporter and their families are victims of a coup d'etat with no bullets. Unless you talk about the guy outside the DNC convention and Epstein and others. But this is the president urging the president of Ukraine to assist the United States government, the Justice Department, via AG Barr and the president's personal attorney, Rudolph Giuliani, or Rudy, I don't know if his name's Rudolph or not, but in finding out and determining where the witch hunt coup started. And we all know that Ukraine is right in there. It's at ground zero. Let me read a transcript, a piece of the transcript of this conversation. This is the President of the United States. And this is the biggest thing that is in this transcript. Don't listen to the news because they're not even talking about it. Listen to me. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say crowd strike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on. The whole situation, I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance. But they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible. The president is not letting go of the Obama administration's corruption. Let me tell you who CrowdStrike is if you forget. CrowdStrike, the FBI, when the DNC server was quote unquote hacked, the FBI showed up at DNC headquarters and Debbie Wasserman Schultz turned them away and said they cannot look at the server. Now, how that happens is beyond me anyway. That the FBI has to ask permission. But anyway, that's what happened. And the DNC used CrowdStrike to investigate it, and they are the only source from anywhere that said that Russia was behind the hacking of the DNC server. They're the only ones. An oligarch-owned Ukrainian, whatever they are, CrowdStrike. So you can best believe that there's a lot of Democrats that are terrified right now that part's not over yet. And when you look at the character of President Trump and you look at his past performance and you look at what he's done for our country and for himself, I mean, to be able to beat that many politicians, 16, and beat the media and beat the Republican Party, beat everybody. And now they're trying to tarnish that. He's not having that, man. He's going to clean this up. Mark my words. Your thoughts?
I hope he does. I hope he gets to the bottom of all this crap. But I think the swamp waters are pretty deep, and both sides are really out for him. He's rocking the boat. Everyone's really making it difficult for him, whether it be left or right. He's getting hit from all sides. I sent out a tweet a little bit ago, and it, just sort of summed up my feelings. This guy isn't doing this for anything except for the love of his country.
It's amazing.
He's not doing this for anything. He thought that he was the best person for the job, decided to run. I think it was in his wildest imagination that he would win. And he did it, and now everyone's shocked. And everyone is, trying to take cover, because I think some of these things that have been going on in Washington are coming to an end, and that's where everyone's trying to protect what they have, and that's why I believe they're just so against them. But it's
you are exactly spot on correct with all of that, and it's both parties. We have one of the worst Republican senators in American history in Pat Toomey, and we're going to get to him later. Because, the shame of it is shifting away from the Congress and back to the press for a little bit, and we'll talk about this after a guest. We have a guest coming on in a couple minutes, but the historic things that this president is doing just in the last couple days, this trip to the United Nations it's going to go down in history. I mean, the president went in there for the first time in I don't know how long, and basically told the world there's not going to be socialism here, and there is not going to be globalists. And the UN is a chamber that is there to assist globalists. They're all globalists in there. If you didn't know by now, the United Nations is an anti-American, anti-Israel organization. And I think President Trump could up his favorability ratings by probably 10 points if he closed it down. But he went in there, and I don't know if you got to listen to any of his speech, but I would suggest that you go find it, because it was not in the media. And it was historic. I mean, he called everybody out, Sal. I mean, it was amazing. And he also had many unilateral and bilateral meetings with other heads of state, and he got apparently a huge trade deal for our farmers with Japan. I mean, this guy's moving and shaking, and you've got Brett Baer talking about this for 20 minutes. It's unprofessional, to say the least. These people are going by clickbait. They're not going by news, and it's a shame. Awkward radio silence.
That's okay. I'm just letting you go, and I agree with you. And hey, when you say something that good, how am I supposed to follow up? How am I supposed to top that? Nice job, Hutch. Nice job, Hutch. Stellar.
Good save. Good save, man. Outstanding save. But yeah, there's a lot going on here, and we've got a lot to say about it. We're going to bring a guest on now first, though. Hopefully this all works out. It really should. It's been, I have to say, for Uber Conference, it's doing a great job. I think it was an excellent purchase. I want to thank the Cold War Radio patrons for allowing that to happen. It's actually a yearly subscription, but it's really doing the job. I mean, we used to rely on Skype all the time, and sometimes that was good, and sometimes it wasn't. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger L. Simon is the author of 13 books, 11 fiction and 2 nonfiction. These include the 8 Moses Wine detective novels that have been nominated for multiple awards and translated in over a dozen languages. The first in this series, The Big Fix, was made into a film starring Richard Dreyfuss, for which Simon, also a screenwriter, wrote the script. Mr. Simon, thank you for coming on the show. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. My co-host, Sal, is also in Allegheny County in western Pennsylvania. Welcome to Cold War Radio, sir.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee at the moment.
All right. You have a new book out now, and it's called The Goat. Before we get into your background a little bit, why don't you talk about your new novel a little bit, and then we'll go a little deeper.
All right. Well, it's the goat, not as in a Billy Goat Gruff or anything like that. It's the goat as in GOAT, as in the greatest of all time. And it's a novel that's kind of a Faust story, if you know Faust, or Damn Yankees, if you know Damn Yankees. A guy who makes a deal with the devil. But it's comic, and it's set in the world of tennis, big-time tennis, like Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Wimbledon, French Open, all those places. And the Himalayas appear in this book. And, what I tell people on the radio a lot and TV is that, I'm someone who used to be leftist many years ago, switched over after 9/11, and I'm trying to help my side now, the conservative side, bring the arts back to our side a bit, because it's been a disaster for people on the right in the arts, and that's really bad for the culture, really bad.
It absolutely is, and it reminds me of Andrew Breitbart pointing out that politics is downstream from culture, man. We don't capture the culture, we're out.
You're right. And, ironically, Andrew Breitbart, when I lived in Los Angeles before I was thrown out, used to do the Drudge Report from my house.
Wow, that's outstanding. You also were a co-founder of PJ Media, I believe. Why don't you talk about? I looked on the Daily Caller. I always like Tucker Carlson, but I see they had a podcast, and we're wondering how did you go from some so far left and then all the way into PJ Media and.
9/11 happened, as you may recall, and it woke me up. I was ready to wake up. I could go through a long tap dance about it, but I won't. But basically what happened was after 9/11, I had written a novel that was coming out from Simon & Schuster, and I could tell because, my attitudes had shifted rightwards, that they weren't going to do much for the book. So I decided I'd start blogging. This is 2003. And I started it just to support the novel, to promote it. But what happened was I started honestly talking about my shift from left to right, and a lot of people in those days were going through the same process. Of course, a lot of them went back again to the left, but in those days, and so the blog became hugely successful. The novel did, but the blog did, and then I met a lot of these people, like the Instapundit, Glenn Reynolds, and here in Tennessee and so forth. And we got together and we started what was then Pajamas Media, and then became PJ Media, several years later. But it was called originally Pajamas Media because several of us had been involved with taking down Dan Rather for his lies about the National Guard papers of George Bush, as you recall.
I remember it well.
And so the executive director of CBS at the time, on late night television, called us all amateurs in our pajamas. So we said, well, let's call this Pajamas Media. Of course, he didn't realize that these amateurs, Glenn was a full law professor at the University of Tennessee. I was an Academy Award nominated screenwriter, etc. They didn't bother to look it up. They just attacked us.
Oh, yeah.
Not familiar. Anyway.
Well, Roger, tell us a little bit. You gave us a little evolution from 9/11 to now, but how about a little evolution of 1943 to 9/11, that in between part where, tell us about your upbringing. What made you believe that the left was right?
Well, I was a product of my generation. I was, friends with Abby Hoffman. Okay.
Wow. Steal this book.
In other words, I came from the upper middle class. My father was a successful doctor who actually was peripherally part of the Manhattan Project. So I grew up around scientists. And, I grew up in New York City. Everybody was a liberal. It was like, And then in my generation, we had to go to the left of our parents. It was thoughtless and typical. I went to fancy colleges and Ivy League schools and all that. And I had a very kind of traditional kind of New York Jewish upbringing. And then it changed. But it took a long time because when I went to Hollywood, I was gifted young. I could write dialogue, and I made a lot of money when I was very young. So I actually did such horrible things as I gave money to the Black Panthers for their breakfast program.
Oof.
That's how far on the left I was. So, but, I gradually started to realize this was crazy. And, one of the things that really changed me, I was living in L.A. at the time, and as you will recall, the O.J. trial was a very big deal in that city, to say the least, in the early 90s. And I had been a civil rights worker in the South as a kid. And I started to get really weirded out by the black racism of the O.J. trial, where they were trying to get a man who obviously killed a couple of people on the basis of race. And I couldn't stand it. But it didn't change me altogether until 9/11 came, and then the day after I changed and never came back.
No, I understand that. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh as a Democrat, and it took me until I'm 58 now and did 35 years in the Army, and I changed when I was about 30 during Clinton's run up during the primary. But anyway, that's another story. I'm not going to waste your time on that. But I will say that you are one of the you've been coined as the godfather of conservative new media, which I'll go ahead and kiss your ring right now because that's me. But how did you get that name or that?
Well, because I found it. But I think because Pajamas Media was the first of those kind of new media companies on the right. So. And I did found it. So, I was sort of like accidentally elected in a certain way to do it because of my Hollywood experience. I'd made movies and so forth. So I had that takes some organizational skills.
Why, certainly.
Lot,
but they're not just chump change events. I mean, let's talk about that a little bit because we say, again, that politics is downstream from the culture, and you seem like a perfect ambassador. You had screen credits including Bustin' Loose with one of my favorite, Richard Pryor, scenes from a mall with Bette Miller and Woody Allen, A Better Life. I mean, you're nominated for an Academy Award for your adaptation of Isaac Singer's Enemies, a love story, directed by Paul Mazursky. I mean, this is a lot of things.
Yeah, but so that's why I found myself carrying whatever power was left of that. I mean, in a great way, I've been essentially blacklisted by Hollywood now. Although there's some interest in making The Goat into a movie, because I would have written The Goat as a movie first, because it's absolutely a natural movie set in the world of tennis that goes around the world, and it's like Deal with the Devil. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in it. And but I know these days the deck is stacked so greatly against conservatives in Hollywood that I thought I'd be swimming uphill. I put it right in the people then can go onto Amazon and buy it for $5. It's not. That's the way things have to be now. I mean, but interestingly, because of that background that I have, over the years, some people have approached me and said, "Well, would you head up a movie company on the right?" And I always said, "Sure, I'd love to do it." But they never come up with the money.
Right.
What's very interesting. What's interesting about the right-wing financiers and financial people is they'll never put money in the arts except for the Philharmonic. They'll put the money in the Philharmonic and get their name on the the lobby wall there. But Beethoven doesn't need much help at this point.
Right. I think a lot of people out here are tired of that inaction too. I mean, and they're really. I think that's one of the lures to President Trump is he's outside of the mold and he's not afraid to say what he means. and he means what he says.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's something
Absolutely.
that's very critical to red-blooded Americans. I mean, if you're going to tell me something, then at least let me be able to trust you, at least at the onset. You know, you hear these. Go ahead.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, all I'm saying is, yes, sir, I agree. And that is what he does, and I think he's terrific. And the sad thing is, with these conservative financiers, is they're leaving money on the table besides, because anytime anyone makes a decent movie that's sort of in the center, even like The Blind Side or A Lone Survivor or something like that, they're killers at the box office. Everybody wants to go.
Or even you've seen now lately movies involving Christianity and spirituality are blockbusters. I mean, at least trending that way. Sal.
Hey, Roger, what got this writing bug going? As a child, did you write? Through school, did you write? What are the origins of this? Do you have any?
Oh God, I think my mother always wanted to be a writer, and in my family, writers were revered. Although, I was scared I couldn't do it, but I really wanted to be one from the time I was like 14, I think. And I remember I grew up in Manhattan, and if you look up I lived on the second floor in a 16-story building near Mount Sinai Hospital. But you look up through the window of my bedroom, I could see a man typing at about the 14th floor in the next building. This is, of course, long before computers using a typewriter. And one day, and my mother would always see me staring up at the sky. And my mother, so I said to my mother, "Who is that?" She said, "That's a man named Herman Wouk." You know who that is? He wrote the K&B.
Wow.
and Marjorie Morningstar and a bunch of things.
Did you meet him?
It sounds like you're.
In his day, back in the 50s, he was.
Sorry, Sal. I got to jump in. Did you get a chance to meet Herman Wouk?
Never met him, but I met him a lot of famous writers later on when I was going to Yale Drama School.
Well,
I never met Herman Wouk. I just saw him. I was a little kid, and I was just looking up at the next building.
Well, your eyes must have been magnetically drawn to him, which is an amazing story. Just to tell that. It's irony. Wow, you're drawn to a writer right away. That is fantastic.
That is awesome.
You can't make it up.
Well, I was very scared that I'd be able to make a living at it, so I worked very hard when I was young.
Well, that's good. That's
just because if I didn't, I'd have to go back to school and learn something else, or go to law school or something. I didn't really want to do it.
Tell the audience, and incidentally, Herman Wouk did a couple miniseries that just captivated me. Some of the best, almost like a documentary, but it was drama of World War II with the Winds of War, and what was the second one? War and Remembrance. Those two things were epic. They were epic, man. Wow. I remember I videotaped them on a VHS.
Well, you guys would know. You got the Cold War show here.
Yes, sir. Why don't you tell the audience one more time what the acronym GOAT stands for? And then I have another question for you.
Okay, the GOAT stands for the greatest of all time.
All right.
Which is a very common term now in a lot of sports, but particularly in tennis, where it's a sport where you could actually kind of measure it a little bit better because there's one guy on the court against another guy. In basketball or a team sport, it's harder to tell who's the greatest of all time.
And the second question is, whatever happened to Dan Gelber?
Well, Dan Gelber is a semi-retired screenwriter in his 70s who he played tennis all his life. And then finally, after playing all his life, he made it to the finals of the seniors tournament at his club. Not a big deal, but he was happy to be there. And in the first game of the finals tournament, his back goes out, something fierce, and he's rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. The doctor says to him, "You got to operate. This is terrible. This is going to be a laminectomy." A woman from India or Nepal is in the corner, and she says, "Do not do operation. Always makes worse. Go see my cousin Gambo in Valley. He fixes up." But it's a guy from the West, Dan Gilbert, right? He grew up like we did. So he takes the operation. But the woman is right. And the operation is a total disaster. He's in his 70s. He thinks his life is over. He's on the edge of suicide. And at the last minute, he gets himself to go out to the valley, and he meets this guy, Gambo. And he starts to give him herbs from the Himalayas. I'm not going to tell you anymore, but he starts to get younger.
Good stuff.
So the fountain of youth is found. So,
but you pay for it, don't you?
Yes, yes. So, are you a tennis player?
Yes, always. Yeah, I play. I still play a couple times a week.
What got you started in that? School, younger? Because that was in the 40s. Was that?
The 50s.
50s, yeah.
I got tennis was big in New York when I was a kid. But the other thing is I'm 5'7". I like basketball, but I realized it wasn't for me.
That's two of us.
But in those days, the great tennis players like Rod Laver and Ken Rosewall, they were all around my height. Of course, now the great tennis players are all 6'5".
Right. Just like pitchers.
Yeah.
I'm the same way as you. I'm 5'7". I had a hell of a jumper, but it wasn't very helpful under the boards.
No. Exactly that experience.
Tell people how can they get your book, and any final comments to the audience or anywhere you'd like our folks to look. Give it a shot.
Well, the best way to get it is the old way of going to Amazon, where you can get it in 3 different forms. Whichever you like, you can get it in Kindle, you can get it in paperback, or you can get it in hardback. And in about 6 weeks, I guess, something like that, you'll be able to get it in an audio book as well for those who enjoy that. That's
all right.
Obviously a growing thing. I don't do too much of it because I'm not in my car as much as I used to be. But but if I were in my car commuting every day, I'd be really into audiobooks.
That's another interesting thing. I'm trying to find it in my notes here. You lived a long time in L.A. And believe me, that trial was not just the epicenter of what was going on in L.A. It was through the whole country and maybe some of the world. I remember I was in central Pennsylvania when the video came out of Reginald Denny getting, massacred in Los Angeles after the verdicts and things. And that was, I'll never forget that. That was a feeling in my stomach that I haven't had very many times in my life. That was absolutely, racism was horrible.
Mm-hmm. It was terrible. And, the whole, all this stuff is, the OJ trial was, of course, public to the world. No question. In Los Angeles, it was like, it had become like almost like, it's hard to explain it because it was the first time anybody that I know, or any of us, saw events that were surrounded by satellite dishes. Now that's a very common thing.
Right.
Trump is speaking in Tampa. There's a bunch of satellite dishes that you can see all over the place. But in '93, you'd never seen that, really. Maybe you'd see one. This was the first time when this event you could see was being broadcast to the entire globe.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that stood out to me, I had just recently returned from a tour in South Korea with the United States Army. And when I saw the Koreans standing their ground in those neighborhoods, man, I was like, wow, this is real. This is something. These Koreans don't do things like we do, man. This is serious if they're on the roof with M1 Garands.
Well, the thing I don't miss Los Angeles much, but one thing I do miss about it is the Koreatown and the Korean community.
I love Koreans. I do too.
Yeah, the food was great.
Absolutely.
I love Korean barbecue. Was fabulous.
Bulgogi.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
People don't realize it, but apparently L.A. is the second biggest Korean town to Seoul.
Wow, I didn't know that. I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can drive for 2 or 3 miles in parts of L.A. and see nothing but Korean signs.
I know I was in Koreatown in San Francisco, and that was intense as well. But there was also, if you kept driving, it was like living in the United Nations. It was Koreatown, and then it was Japantown, and it went on.
Right.
But
well,
anyway,
LA is the same thing, but it's hugely bigger. So
yeah, right.
that's
Absolutely.
why you get the difference.
All right, Mr. Roger Simon, I appreciate you coming on the program. I'd love to have you back. A great guest.
Well, it's fun to be here with you guys, and I love what you're doing. So, let me know.
All right, thank you very much. At Roger L. Simon on Twitter. Thank you for coming on the program, sir. All right, Sal, another successful interview.
Wow, that was quite an honor there.
It was.
Interesting background. I didn't know that he, don't like this word, but he had a really good upbringing.
Absolutely.
It sounded like he had a very supportive mother and father that wanted him to, be educated and be smart. And I want to say he made the most of it. Maybe
Absolutely.
not in the way that maybe he thought it was going to be, but he made the most of it. And, is he paying for his transformation now to away from the left? I don't know.
I doubt it.
But maybe
there's
but there's maybe, hey, there's freedom in your mind if you make the right choice or the choice that you want to make.
Absolutely.
So I
didn't know how to. When I got the announcement from our communications director, I wasn't really sure where I was going with it, and then I dug into it a little bit, which is what we do. I mean, our publicists for our guests provide background information, and it allows you to go further than what they give you.
Right, and I didn't really know a lot about his upbringing or background. I mean, that's why I wanted to sort of explore that, because I didn't know whether he was I don't want to say a person from a modest I had no idea where his background was or was not, and that's why I wanted to get an idea, because I didn't
sound like a tenement in New York, right? I mean, that's what I got.
Yeah,
it was interesting when he said about, because I'm just going to reveal my age. When he said about seeing the guy in the adjacent building on the typewriter in the middle of the night, I thought about, one of the most cutting edge technological advances for me, because I write too a lot. Not so much anymore, but when I was working, I had to write a lot. And think back on how many pieces of paper that I wasted on a typewriter because of one typo, or using the tape, the correction tape on a typewriter.
Yeah, remember that? Remember how hard that correction tape was hard to use, and then you had to slip that little piece of white. And then you had to slip that little piece of white paper underneath the key, and made sure you had to get exactly right.
And the damn key didn't hit the exact same place it did the first time.
Yeah,
because you had a cheap typewriter.
I'm a little younger, but I still remember that stuff.
That damn backspace, boy, was like a dream come true, man. On a word
product. And you slightly moved that piece of paper. Those rollers were a little bit off, it slid a little bit.
Or the printers.
You were screwed. You were screwed.
The printers with the holes on the sides, the first printers.
Oh, yeah.
Not the ones that suck the paper in, the ones where you use the roll of paper. Oh, my God.
Yeah. They were like accordions. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they made furniture for it. They made furniture that you could put your printer here and your box of paper underneath, and it didn't last very long, but it was there. Anyway, good nostalgic memories, and hopefully the godfather of the conservative new media takes notice of Cold War radio. We'll see what happens. Anyway, okay, back to hard news. Oh, and by the way, phones are open, 412-206-6208. I know there's some people out there waiting to get in on the action tonight. Man, it's nice having a communications director. You know that, man? It's just, I get an email, boom, and it's like, show. It's wonderful. Let's get her to Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. SteelCityResistance.com. Donate button on the right margin. Hit donate. All donations will go to sending Mona to Washington, D.C. and the Values Voter Summit and some great interviews, I am sure. The Senate today, Sal, disappointed me once again, and they passed a Democrat motion to end border wall national emergency because there's no more emergency at the wall, and President Trump sucks, and the Republicans that voted for this resolution to end the national emergency to build a border wall are Senators Collins from Maine, Lamar Alexander, fake Republican from Tennessee who is retiring, Pat Toomey, fake Republican from Pennsylvania, who I wrote to his office today and called him out for being such a coward for leaving President Trump, who got 19,000 more votes in Pennsylvania than you did, Pat Toomey, for leaving him out there on the battlefield by himself. Where are you? Why aren't you out there protecting our president, Senator Toomey? You cowardly worm. Mitt Romney, Republican fake of Utah, Lisa Murkowski, Republican write-in fake from Alaska, and Mike Lee, Republican fake, and Mitt Romney's number 2 from Utah, Rob Portman, Republican fake from Ohio as well. How can we win with these people?
Vote them out. We can't win with these people. Vote them out.
Pennsylvania,
Vote them out.
Pennsylvania
Vote them
listeners,
out.
if you're listening and you're from Pennsylvania, we need a combat veteran to primary Pat Toomey, and we need you now. Contact me. More importantly, contact some people with money. But I think on the gun control issue alone, you can primary Pat Toomey, along with all the times that this guy has gone against President Trump. Every time. He was against the emergency declaration from the beginning. He is one of the main reasons that we have Purge the Senate on SteelCityResistance.com. He's one of the easiest senators to knock out in a Republican primary. Lou Barletta, where are you? Lou Barletta, get back here. We have to get rid of Pat Toomey. Pat Toomey's a cancer on MAGA. And so is Mike Lee. How about Mike Lee, Sal? I mean, this guy was a Tea Party darling. And now, Google owns the guy.
Wonder what he's getting. Wonder how wealthy. I wonder how much more wealthier he's going to get. What's going on? I'd like to see it all.
I mean, this guy's a Glenn Beck groupie, man. Glenn Beck worships this guy. And that's about all you need to know about Mike Lee. I had high hopes for him, but not anymore. Ken from King George, hello.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? You brought up the gun control thing. Our Senator Warner from Virginia is looking to head down to, where he knows he can get a boatload of votes from all the union, shipyard workers and everything. Talk about gun control, because that's where they just had this, massive shooting, in a gun-free zone, by the way. Now, fortunately for us Virginians, I hope President Trump comes to Virginia and campaigns a little more, because I looked at the map after the election, and there's a lot of Republicans in Virginia.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, the problem has always been the northern counties. I mean, I can't tell you how many elections I've been watching, and I've been watching elections for a long time, brother. And I can't tell you how many times in Virginia, no matter what the race was about, that the Republican was leading up until the last hour. And then all those corrupt counties around D.C. knew how many votes they needed. And by God, every time they came in with 300 extra ones. It happens. It happens every election, every single election in Virginia.
I just saw Jack just threw up in the chat that Tidewater, Richmond, and Northern Virginia, but you also have now that everything that has to do with race relations that's ever happened. Forget the Civil War. Everything started in Charlottesville. Everything.
I know it's
that
horrible.
has to do with racism started in Charlottesville. 'Cause that's all they bring up.
Isn't it amazing that we're intelligent people. We're intelligent people, and almost every one of our conversations goes back to some clown show stuff that was either in the Democrat or the media, the Democrat media or the Democrat Party, and sometimes Republicans. It's like, come on, are you people not serious? And sometimes I come to the conclusion that they're just, and more times than not, you should be offended, Ken, and everybody else listening to the show, because they are acting and speaking to you like you really are stupid. And that offends me. It really does. It offends me.
And the sad thing is, I work with a bunch of these young, I call them kids. I mean, they're late 20s, early 30s, but they went straight from high school to college, and now they have a government job, So they've never actually made an attempt at starting a business or worked, for a small business or. So, I mean, of course they're going to believe whatever's tube fed to them by their professors, and that's what it is. The guy that's in charge of our project, the one day he made a comment in the lab, he was like, well, I guess that's capitalism. And I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Yeah. How the hell do you think all this equipment shows up in this lab? The government doesn't make it. They buy it from a private company. You just get to pick, all right, well, we're going to use this company's switch or computer or whatever, And now most of these companies are out there. They know how to usurp the government to get the contracts and other,
my wife's a government contractor. I know all about it.
But it's just insane, because they know they can't be fired. They have no risk of every 5 years, we got to rebid our contract, and now I'm the guy that's presenting, what did we do over the past 5 years? So I got to keep track of all this crap. And I hate doing paperwork. It's like I come here to do a job.
Think if you had to do it with a typewriter. I used to have to do what you're talking about with a typewriter.
You survived, Touch. You're right.
Oh, I did, but I had to approve those. What he's talking about, the quantitative part of tracking progress. I had to do that all the time. Man. I mean, it's maddening. It is, but it's necessary.
Our procurement system is just insane.
It is.
I mean,
right.
I ordered some casters. And they're like, well, the lady that does all of our procurement, she's like, well, if I don't get it in by Friday, we're not going to be able to order it until October 1st.
Well, that's because of the fiscal year, man. That's just built in. That's built in. You know that. And
I understand that. But I was like, if this was any other company outside this fence, they would fail within a week.
Right.
With all the people that they have that are just don't know business practice, where you got a guy, now I got to keep track of, okay, I got this bin of cables over here that were ordered. They were the wrong thing. We can't return them because nobody wants to do that. Because that requires paperwork because somebody else screwed up. So now I got to track all this stuff because I got the part Nazis coming in here telling me, Oh, you got to know what
The
they
fart
were saying.
Nazis.
I'm like,
The fart Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
part.
Part.
P-A-R-T.
Okay, I thought you were talking about cows and flatulence or something.
Oh,
okay.
no,
Those are the fart
we're not
Nazis
gonna
now.
get we're not going to get AOC involved in this. But
Oh yes, yes
I'm
we
sure
are.
she's come up with
Right after your call, we are. We're going to get AOC all in the middle of this. Hey, I'm going to leave you on here for a second because I want to talk about. I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about this impeachment situation. And you're hearing all these Democrats, and they're coming out, and they're talking about how the president has endangered national security and things like that, and with this Ukraine situation. And I just wanted to bring everybody back up to speed because I know in our culture we don't keep a whole lot of information in our hard drive. In other words, we move on. I'll give you an example. You know, Agent Brian Terry was murdered on the Mexican border because the Attorney General of the United States of America set up a program to put guns in the hands of Mexican drug cartels so he could go there, seize them, and say that they were American, they were weapons bought in America, and blame the entire violence trend on the Mexican border on American gun laws, and therefore curtail Second Amendment rights. That story's gone. And so we're 40 more stories that happened in between then and now. But now we're listening to these people saying that President Trump was endangering national security with what he did on the phone with the president of Ukraine. I just want to go through a timeline and tell you what really, remind you rather, of what really happened in Ukraine. In July of 1990, Ukraine declared sovereignty. A year later, in July of 91, the United States and Soviet Union signed the START Treaty. In December of the same year, the Soviet Union officially dissolved, delaying entry into force of START. 4 days later, the Minsk Agreement on Strategic Forces, the Commonwealth of Independent States agreed that strategic forces would be under the joint command of the former Soviet Union states. In May 23rd of 1992, at the Lisbon Protocol, signed by Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the United States, the protocol sought to return nuclear weapons in 3 formerly Soviet states to Russia. All states were to be added to the START Treaty and to join the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. In January of 1994, 2 years later, the trilateral statement signed by Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, Ukraine committed to full disarmament, including strategic offensive weapons, that's nuclear, in exchange for economic support and security assurances from the United States and Russia. September 4th, 1993, the Masandra Accords was a failed summit between Russia and Ukraine. December 5th, 1994, Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances signed by Russia, Ukraine, United States, and the UK included security assurances against the threat or use of force against Ukraine's territory or political independence. The same day, Ukraine submitted its instrument of accession to the NPT as a non-nuclear weapons state. The 5 START parties exchanged instruments of ratification for START, which entered into force. On June 1st, 1996, Ukraine transferred its last nuclear warhead to Russia. October 30th, 2001, Ukraine eliminated its last strategic nuclear weapon delivery vehicle. December 4th, 2009, joint statement by Russia and the United States. The two countries confirmed that the security guarantees made in the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. In March 18th, 2014, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula of Ukraine, and the Obama administration welched on our treaty obligations to provide security assistance to Ukraine. Barack Obama and Joe Biden sent them blankets and tents. Not until President Trump was elected did we provide any lethal aid to Ukraine. And yet the news sits there and acts like President Trump did something wrong. President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden welched on a treaty agreement, and it's amazing to me that Ukraine will even talk to the United States, Ken.
Oh, no, it's I mean, okay, so you start your timeline out in 90. So 90, I'm just joining the Navy. And, you know, they're not going to
have to
the
do
news
that.
And this
We have to do that. We have to go back.
Right. And I wasn't paying attention to the news or anything, you know. So by 94, 99, I mean, we're sitting in the lounge watching Hunt for Red October while I was going to sub school, you know. But, you know, hit 94, and everybody's talking about the OJ trial.
You went
My
to sub
sister was
school?
sending me. Yes, I did. I actually didn't make it to a submarine because I got into a car accident with one of my ET buddies, cracked my skull, and they told me I was medically unfit for submarine duty. So,
You know, I had a
make a long story short there.
I'll make some good radio here, though. I had a good friend of mine that was a nuclear submarine. The guy that's down with the nuclear stuff. I don't know what that
guys.
Yeah, he was that guy.
We used to get all the guys that went to power school. They wanted me to be a nuke real bad.
Well, this dude told me, you mentioned The Hunt for Red October. He told me that when that movie came out, life changed. He said before that movie came out, nobody knew anything about American nuclear subs. But after that movie came out, they were given tours of his boomers, man. You know, and that blew me away. I mean, it's like, wow.
Well, see, the only
and then remember what happened shortly after that. The author, what was his name?
Tom Clancy.
Clancy, all of a sudden, mysteriously died.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, that was after about 7 or 8 books, but yeah.
Right, that's true, because I read every one of them.
Yeah, he was talking about some other stuff that, may or may not exist.
He was giving briefings to the CIA. I mean, this guy was knew what he was doing. Anyway, go ahead. Final thoughts.
So anyway, by 94, like I said, you were talking about the OJ trial. Well, I was on my first deployment because I'd finally made it to, a seagoing command. And my sister's sending me all these pictures and stuff, and she's got sticky notes on them. Because this was long before email, and you had to actually take a physical photo, and if you wanted to make some stupid comment on it, you had to add a sticky note to it. And she's making all these OJ references, and I'm like, well, what the hell is she talking about, Well, until we got back, I finally figured out what was going, Then the stuff was kind of hilarious because I knew what was going on. But yeah, I kind of started paying attention somewhat. But I mean, it's the same thing with Russia when they occupied. When the Nazis, when they finally kicked the shit out of them, kicked them out of the Baltic Sea, and all the countries that I was just at in that in that region, what was it, 2 years ago when I went on that cruise, they finally got rid of the Nazis, and the Russians, oh, yeah, we're going to come in here, we're going to take care of you, because they know that the whole Baltic Sea area is a very strategic location when it comes to sea lanes and all that stuff. And now that they've, I wish I would have had a little bit more time in Riga, Latvia, to visit the Russian Occupation Museum.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of history there. There's a ton of history, and a lot of it we could use domestically. If you look at the Balkans and you look at the United States, you look at Slovenia and the Czech Republic, and they just pushed them together and called them Czechoslovakia. You look at the Balkanization of the United States with African Americans and Cuban Americans and whatever. The hyphen, that's why it was so important when we had Chris Harris on the show, CEO of Unhyphenated America. We've got to get away from this Balkanization. Ken, thanks for calling. Appreciate your memories.
Oh, yeah.
And call back
Thanks
again,
for my
brother.
call.
Absolutely. Anybody else who'd like to call, 412-206-6208. If you've never called the show before, I want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Sal wants to hear from you. Sal wants to know. Corn Pop wants to know if you like turkey clubs. Nobody's going to know what the hell that meant, but I do, and you do.
I know you.
All right, let's move on here. We said that AOC was not really in the news, but let's listen to Mini AOC.
I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a.k.a. AOC, which stands for Against Climate Change. Don't call it a comeback. I want to tell you about the most amazing science book I just finished reading on climate change. It's called Chicken Little. Two world-renowned scientists, Dr. Henny Penny and Dr. Clocky Locky, prove that climate change is literally the reason the sky is falling. When the sky is falling while sea levels are rising, then the oceans will spill over the sides of the earth and will all drown in outer space. Did you know that? You can also ask my former classmate Greta. One day, this man named George Soros showed up and took Greta out of class, and I haven't seen her since. Isn't it strange that the same liberals who ran me off the internet are defending Greta because she's a kid? So it makes me feel pretty safe to come back. Maybe they've changed. Never mind. A liberal just texted me and said, get off the internet. He said, this is child abuse to use a child to further your agenda. Oh well, I guess being a hypocrite just came back in style. But you know what hasn't come back in style? Mustaches. Girls with mustaches. I used to not believe in climate change either. I thought it meant Mother Nature was transgendering into Father Nature. But then I built a sandcastle on the beach, and by the next day, it had been destroyed by rising sea levels. OMG, we can't let the same thing happen to Barack Obama's new $15 million beachfront home. I hope he knows how to swim. We knew there was a climate change disaster when Noah and his sister Joan built an ark and all the dinosaurs drowned. New Orleans and Atlantis have already disappeared because of rising oceans. How many more states do we have to lose before we take it seriously? Okay, maybe you can call it a comeback.
The state of Atlantis. Oh, my God, man. Thank God for her parents, man. Somebody, this is, I had to tell you, Sal, this crime, if you saw that Swedish girl, who has Asperger's, by the way, she believes everything she says. And she is, she just got paid $100,000 as an alternative Nobel Peace Prize winner. I don't know where that will, I'll bet that money has Soros written on it. But the level of child abuse to do this, can you imagine how many, and ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to embrace the children around you and encourage them and reassure them that the earth is going to be here when they're 20, because they believe it's not. And I think the people...
What science? Wait. What science background does she have?
It's not her.
She has nothing.
It's not her,
Yeah,
though.
she's a tool. She's a puppet.
It's the people that taught her this. This is where my anger goes. My anger goes to Bill Peduto and to Pittsburgh public school teachers and public school teachers around the country and public school unions, communist in nature, that have been terrifying our children into believing this. They really believe it, Sal. They really do, man. This is no joke. And they're going to grow up to be adults who really believe it. And by that time, they're going to have so much invested in it that they're not going to be able to be strong enough to realize they've been duped. This is a serious situation. And there's a special place in hell for the adults that have done this to our children. Marlene from Eugene, your thoughts? Okay, let me unmute you. Hold on a second. Hold on.
I got
Marlene from Eugene.
Okay.
Your thoughts, too.
Alrighty. Yeah, I agree with you. There should be a special place in hell for those teachers and parents
Absolutely.
who are brainwashing the crap out of their kids and letting the teachers at school do the same damn thing.
I mean, can you imagine growing up thinking that your world's going to be gone before you're old enough to even have a date?
I know, it's horrible. The junk they feed these kids. It's sickening.
Now, you have to be a stupid kid to believe it, but we got a lot of stupid kids.
We do. We have quite a few stupid kids.
I hate to say it. I mean, it's not something that's good for the country, man. I mean, and
no, it's not.
I just hope as time goes by. I saw a good meme on Cold War Radio's Facebook page that had this girl saying that, and then Al Gore coming out in the bottom part of the meme saying, I've been saying, because she said that, the world's going to end in 10 years. And a furious Al Gore said, I've been saying that for 30 years. Yeah, well, we know.
Oh, geez, Louise,
we know,
funny.
right?
Yeah, of course.
What'd you think of the
I'm
interview?
a little happier. That was good. It was kind of garbled on my end. I couldn't hear him part of the time.
His phone, he had one.
I did hear it was good.
He had one of those
His phone was kind of
phones.
going in and out.
He had a pop filter problem. Every time he said anything with a P or a T, man, it just like took the audio out. But hopefully you got most of what he said.
I did. It was good. But I guess on a happier note, this was from a day or two ago, but I still thought it was a good article. They're talking about how the Trump administration will effectively end catch and release with the immigration enforcement. And they say the new policy will be instituted as a result of the combined impact of existing initiatives that will end the practice of detaining migrant families before releasing them into the U.S. while they await their court hearing. And apparently under the new procedures, if a family does not claim fear of return to their home country, they're going to be deported back to that country. If the family does claim fear to return, they will return to Mexico under the Migrant Protection Protocol. And it says, which requires that the migrants wait on the Mexican side of the border while we take our time and we process their claim. I thought that was a good start. I mean,
And you know what?
Baby step, but hey, it's something.
And you know what? It wasn't on any media except for Cold War Radio.
No.
How about that?
That's right. And
You
I
know?
got it because I get some newsletters from independent people. That's how, like you. That's how I find out about this stuff.
Oh, you have to. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
I'm so, and I got to say this, and man, Mona's going to slap me for this if she's listening, but I'm so disappointed in Brett Baer, man. I mean, I listen to his reporting, and I know that he's the best that we've got, but it's almost time that I have to take my focus away from him and go to One American News Network, man. I really, when I look at the fervor that he pursues this fake news, it's just I think of him as me, right? I think of, all right, you're like me, but yet I see you continuously going down these rabbit holes that you have to be an idiot to think that there's any reality to it, but yet he does it every night, man. And I feel so bad because he could be so good. I was at a pod camp 5 or 6 years ago, and it was in a new media versus old media forum in one of the side meetings. And it was all leftists from Pittsburgh. One of the moderators was from Political Junkies, a complete communist guy, right? Totally communist, homosexual, whole thing. And he opened his monologue with and we have media out there that say that climate change isn't real. We all know that's not true. And I'm thinking, no, wait a minute. That's not closed yet. But yet this is how they feel. And they called out Fox News, and I remember standing up in front of that entire room. And Sal, it was PodCamp Pittsburgh. And I was in there with all those Democrats. And I said, Brett Baer is the best in the business. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You need to start listening to him. And now he's going south too, man. And I know that the Fox News channel, and I can't remember the name of the company, it doesn't matter, has been taken over by the kids. And now you got
that I do know.
Now you got Bobo Brazil there, and it's just
I can't
it's
Bobo
horrible.
Brazil. I hate
It's horrible.
that woman.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it is. And on a funnier note too, I remember typewriters with autocorrection tape. I used those. Those were great.
You know what was cool though? It was cool when there was a couple models of typewriter in between the word processor and typewriter era that had cassettes. Right. They had cassettes, and I had one of what's that stuff called? The tape, the correction tape or whatever. It was a cassette.
Yeah.
That you could hit a button on your keyboard and it would go and erase it. Those were cool. Those were nice.
So what I had were I remember using one that had a ribbon there was a cassette ribbon.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And then the correction tape were the little two spools, one on one end, one on the other end. They were harder and held a thread.
Come on, man. We're telling everybody how old we are. Let's stop
I know.
this. Let's stop this.
Stop.
Can I get 20 cents for the payphone, Mom?
Yeah, no kidding. What payphone?
Final comments, Marlene.
And final comments. I did see The Hunt for Red October. That was an awesome movie.
It was.
By the way.
It was an even better book. One of the things about those things is the movie never ever is as good as the book. Especially what was his name? Tom Clancy. And it wasn't just Tom Clancy. There was 3 or 4 authors back in that time. That was like the denouement, if you know anything about theater. It was like the denouement.
No, I don't. Not
it was the climax of the Cold War era. Right there when before the Soviet Union collapsed. It was like during George H.W. Bush's term and Desert Storm and all that. And before that, if you remember the newscasts prior to Desert Storm, the big thing, and that was when CNN was the king of news, Sal.
It was.
I'm sure you remember that.
Back then.
You had Bernard Shaw on there and some other guys. But they were saying,
they actually had integrity at that point.
They did.
Used to.
But they were telling us, if you recall, and I was a staff sergeant at the time. I wasn't even an officer yet. I was a hardcore. I had soldiers calling my house. Hey, Sarge, are we going? Are we going? Are we going? I was like, look, man, just study what I told you to study. You know, look at how the heat, because I was in a tank unit, a tank company. I was like, look at how the heat affects your radio. Look at different navigational techniques when you're in the desert. In other words, a lot of people don't realize if you're in the desert and you start walking and you're right-handed and you don't have a compass, you're going to walk in a circle. You're going to walk to the right because you're right-handed. It's just the way it works. You know, so if you don't shoot a bead with your compass and be on where you want to go, you're not going to go there. You're going to go in a big circle and you're going to die.
Oh, wow.
You know, anyway, things like that.
Yeah, and I would never. That's new to me. I did not know that.
Well, that's when I can't remember what was I starting to talk about. I don't even remember. But anyway,
I don't know.
We were getting into we were getting ready to go there. But anyway, all right, I forgot. So there's that. Thanks for calling, Marlene. I'm getting old, man.
You're welcome, Rich.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. 412-206-6208. I want to make a correction, Sal. I know Jack, at least he was in the chat room. I guess he's still in there. Let me go over there and look. Yeah, Jack's still in there. I made a comment a few weeks ago. Might have been a month, might have been 2 months. We were talking about the bonus army. And I made an incorrect declaration during that story, and I said that the bonus army and the retaliation of the U.S. government against these veterans after World War I was under President FDR, and I was incorrect. It was under Republican President Herbert Hoover is when that occurred, and I just wanted to say that. And I didn't do that on purpose. I believed that it was FDR. But FDR, oh man, I'm going to go out on a limb, is the guy that instituted or created the VA, a horrible organization, the Veterans Administration, that is against veterans pretty much. But we'll probably do an entire episode on that at some point in time. But I wanted to get that straight and throw that correction out there. I just felt that was important. Now, Sal, I was a little disturbed at Fox News reporting of this transcript. I was shocked, actually, that out of that entire transcript and the things that were pertinent and important to the American people, that the Fox News channel and John Roberts specifically decided that it was important for the world to know what weapon systems the Ukrainians were asking for and got from the Trump administration. I thought that was anti-American as hell. They put out there for the whole world that the United States was providing, I mean, this is old-ass technology, but they were providing javelins to Ukraine. And for Fox News to do that, I mean, that's a step too far, man. Why? Why did you do that, Fox? John Roberts, why did you out them like that? Why did you tell the Russians what Ukraine got from us? Why did you do that, Fox? Why? Your thoughts, Sal?
You got me baffled on that one. I think maybe they think that there maybe the people on the right want that type of information, and I'm asking the same question. Why? I don't know why. Who's are the puppets driving them? That you have
I don't
to
know.
report this?
I think it's evil.
That's information that people don't need to know.
Exactly.
It just isn't. It's not even about. it's not even about the subject matter at hand. I don't know why they had to go there. Why? I don't know. It's a very good question.
I'm glad you agree with me, because I just, I'm done with thinking that Fox News is a conservative, fair and balanced and never afraid. Give me a break, man.
Well, I think it took them a while to get into the actual transcript story, and I think around by like 9 or 10 o'clock, they finally started getting into the meat of the story. And I don't know if you saw Rudy on Giuliani on TV, but man, he was on fire last night. Holy crap, was he on fire?
And he should be. He's done a magnificent job. How can you blame the president? Because a lot of people are like, well, who is this guy? Well, you can't trust anybody from D.C., so he goes back to his home. And he goes back to New York, and he trusts Rudy Giuliani because he's known him his whole life.
Right. And what's Rudy Giuliani's claim to fame? You should know this.
Busting the 5 mafia families. I mean, the commission.
You got it.
The commission trial was amazing.
Yeah. So what do you think? He knows what's going on. He's not a fool.
No, and he's not afraid.
No, he's not afraid. There's a lot of unspoken things that are going on right now that he's trying to expose. So let Rudy keep on doing.
I agree.
What he's doing.
On a good note, Sal, new home sales hit fastest pace since 2007. Nothing on the news. Nothing.
No, I'm just as you and I both know, the real estate taxes here aren't too friendly.
No,
so
they're crazy.
They are crazy, and I am actually, I don't want to say I'm in fear, but I am anticipating a little bump. And,
don't worry about there'll be no. You don't have to worry about that because don't forget, man, they have a liquor tax that's going to offset all that. Remember, there's an extra 7% that drinkers have to pay. But that's going to stop all. There's not going to be any more tax increases.
And the casino was supposed to stop it, right? Yeah, that one too. All these sin taxes.
No, I'm retired. I'm an elderly Pennsylvanian, and if it wasn't for those checks that I get from the casinos, I'd be out, man. These guys are mobbed up.
The new home sales. It's fantastic. At least where I am at. It's houses are
Me too, man.
It's gone in a day or two. Gone.
I'm gonna double my investment when I move, man. I mean, it's to that point. Well, maybe not double, but close. I mean, it's kind of scary if you think about, we're where we are in life, and our life is good. At least mine is, and I think yours is. It sounds like it is, and but I look at these young people, and it's like, man, how are you going to afford this house that I lived in since 2003? How are you going to afford this? You're not going to be able to do it. I did it, but I bought it for this price. But now I'm selling it for this price. And this is going on everywhere. Hopefully they make more money or something, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how they're going to afford it, especially with a lot of these kids coming out of school with massive student loans.
Right.
Where they have the ability to save money.
Hey, let's talk about Scranton Joe for a minute. Damn, it's sad to see him go out like this. I mean, he's a scumbag. There's no question. No question at all. This guy is probably the most corrupt official in the United States government. And it's all going to come out. And it's coming out soon. I mean, the Democrats are throwing this dude over the wall, under the bus.
Think his teeth are glued in enough?
Nah, he's in trouble, man. Elizabeth Warren has overtaken Joe for the national lead. I mean, I can't. That just blows me away. I mean, it's just amazing to me that this is going to happen. It's amazing. But I welcome it. Bring it.
Americans want our next president to be a woman. Hey babe, here's looking at you, Senator Elizabeth Warren. The planet is warming and the power is shifting.
Oh yeah, it's warming, baby.
We need a leader who won't stand for all the Wall Street bullshit. The lobby is grifting. Run, run, run.
Pass
run,
the
Liz,
peace
run.
pipe.
You gotta run for the office and get the job done. Run, 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 Liz, run. We need a president. We need President Warren. A president. We need President Warren. You shoot straight and tell the truth that we've been chipped, squeezed, and hammered. People think that the system is rigged because it is, and it's time that we stand up. The contract we've known has been cheated and broken. We need a leader who won't stand for all the corporate bullies, political ponies. Run, 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 Liz, run. You gotta run for the office and get the job done. Run, 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 Liz, run. We need a president. We need President Warren. A president. We need President Warren. So you're rich, that's fantastic, and God bless. But there's just a couple of things Liz Warren won't let you forget. Nobody got rich on their own, not nobody. Everybody needs bridges and streets to succeed. Oh, run, 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 Liz, run. You gotta run for the office and get the job done. Run, 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 Liz, run. We need a president. We need President Warren. A president. We need President Warren. A president. We need President Warren.
Looking for an alternative place to find news and opinion? How about conversing with fellow patriots? Join us Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for Cold War Radio. You will find it at www.Spreaker.com or in the Spreaker app. Search for Cold War Radio and you will find it. Since I've been listening, I have met some terrific patriots and learned quite a lot about current events that the mainstream media will never tell you. Please come and join us. Be inspired. You will feel right at home in our Spreaker chat room.
All right, thank you, Marlene. We appreciate that sentiment for sure. Now, Sal, the Trump administration and campaign, actually, Trump PAC has released an ad about Joe Biden. Wow, imagine. We're fighting back for once.
What does white privilege really look like? Weeks after Joe Biden visits China as vice president, his son secures a private billion-dollar deal with the Bank of China. After Biden is named America's top diplomat to Ukraine, his son joins Ukraine's largest private gas producer with no relevant experience and lands another $1 million deal. And before Ukraine's top prosecutor can investigate the shady dealings of Biden's son, he gets the prosecutor fired, then brags about it.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Instead of another failed presidential witch hunt, House Democrats should investigate one of their own, Joe Biden. Great America PAC is responsible for the content of this message.
Great America PAC, man, there it is. I mean, it's unbelievable. The projection idiocy that these Democrats are showing. It's a no-win. Sal, I don't see. I shake my head almost every day, man. I'm thinking, what is wrong with these people?
Well, what is wrong with these people? They're messed up.
I mean,
Wow,
Slimy Joe is not alone, man. Rudy Giuliani has come out and implicated another top Democrat, Senator Murphy. He threatened the Ukrainian regime if investigation of Biden was not dropped. I mean,
it's just how do you make this? How could you possibly make this stuff up?
Like I said at the top of the show,
just-
Sal, this is a great time to be in American radio. I am so proud to be here with you and with all of our audience and being able to document this stuff for the ages because it's never going away. My episodes are here to stay, baby.
Yeah, let's get real. They are just it's projecting in the worst degree. They lie. They're lying. I don't know how they can. I don't know how they can sit straight with straight faces unless they go back. Unless they actually, it's all a shtick, and they go back and they laugh their asses off about it and think that it's a funny thing that they're doing. But
I'm going to
guess.
guess. I'm going to guess in the bar rooms and the haunts that these people live in that they are terrified. I'm going to submit that because we're deplorables, we're irredeemables, we're racists, we're misogynists. We hate ourselves if you listen to them, but we really don't. You know, that's the problem. We really don't hate ourselves. And
how can we believe any? You know, where's the evidence that Adam Schiff had? I want to see it. You know, he said he had some,
right?
And he said he had all this,
and he says he has it for this too.
Yeah, where's it at? I mean, they just, I think
is it
also,
just me? Is it just me, or when you look at that guy? And I have a pretty red complexion, but I have a solid body underneath my red complexion. I look at this guy, and his head looks like it's getting ready to explode. Sal, is that just me?
I think he's kicking the sauce a lot there.
Something,
something's gonna maybe he's gonna be like.
I blame mine on Ireland, but that's just me. But we had a federal judge that tossed. This is the thing. They played a short game. We're playing a little bit of a longer game. And attention, Attorney General Barr, you could speed your freaking game up a little bit, dude. Because there's some things going on that people want to know, and I'm one of them. And we really got to get to the bottom of this.
You know what people want to know? They want to know when someone's going to jail. I tell people that's the question. More often than not, when I'm walking through an airport or something, people walk up to me. When is somebody going to jail for the wrongdoing that took place in the Trump-Russia investigation or even the Clinton investigation?
And we want to know that. But a federal judge today tossed a conviction against General Flynn's former associate, Bijan Rafkian. The government failed to offer substantial evidence. So hopefully this whole thing is starting to unravel. We'll see if it does. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Let's go to Florida and welcome Valerie Zinn to the program. Good evening, Valerie.
Good evening, Hutch and Sal. Nice to hear your voices. I did my show with Mr. Roderick last night on fear. And it was a great psychological topic because, we just took off with it. And it's really what we're living in right now. We have a lot of fear in terms of, what's going to happen?
Are you afraid? Are you afraid?
Well, sometimes I am.
I'm not. But go ahead.
That's good. That's why I listen because I need to be uplifted on a daily basis. I think when you're surrounded by liberals, you really you could dive into that space sometimes. But one of the things I was bringing up last night is I think that the liberals are going to create a very lucrative business for the therapists when Trump wins the next election.
That's a good point. But I would say, Valerie, I would say, one of the things that I have always been a proponent of was our language. And there is nothing liberal about the Democrat Communist Party today. Just so you understand that. I think that we should, as a group, eliminate the adjective, I think, of liberal. I mean, it's. I guess it's an adjective.
You're right. It's really progressive.
Because they're not. They're communist. They're not progressive. Communist
They're
and progressive is synonyms.
Correct.
From the I'm trying to remember the guy's name. The president during World War I,
Woodrow Wilson?
Woodrow Wilson, yeah. He's the one that changed the English language when there was, back then, communism was okay to talk about. But he realized...
I don't know if it was ever okay in our country. It seems to be today. I think one of the things that frightens me are the young people.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many of them, and they are really being brainwashed.
Isn't it great the way they've taken? Isn't it great the way they've taken the man out of that equation?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden, we have this masculine toxicity. There's a reason for that because, and I could bring my stepson onto the show, who is a classic liberal, not a communist. But to me, what liberal means is leave me alone. Well, that's not what these Democrats are anymore. They're not leave me alone. They are, we're going to come into your life, into every aspect of your life.
And we're going to choke you to death.
Damn right. That's not liberal, Valerie.
No, it is not liberal. It's extremely progressive. But I just want to backtrack one short thing because I think there are a few of the Fox hosts that if anybody caught the 5 today, Greg Gutfeld, he is just he is in a world on his own.
He's awesome.
Right? He's awesome.
No, I agree with you. I watched that. I did watch that. That's the only thing I watched. I watched that, and I watched the clown show of Brett Baer's special report. Brett Baer's
I couldn't get past
off
it.
the rolls. I'm never watching that again. That story, that
Jesse
whole group.
Jesse Waters has also become a great student of Bill O'Reilly's, and I think he's growing into his own as well.
Did you watch Juan Williams during that? I mean, he's like moving his hands through his little fro.
I almost shot the TV with my rifle.
Yeah, I know. No, Sal, it's absolutely critical to watch Juan Williams during tonight's episode of The 5. He melted the F down. He melted down. And everybody on the panel, everybody except Dana H.W. Bush Perino, everybody else flipped out on him. She's worthless.
But don't you think
she's an oxygen thief.
He's one of those people that goes out after the show and has a martini and a steak with all the rest of those
Absolutely.
guys. It's all entertainment.
His son.
It's all entertainment.
Absolutely.
I know his son, and in February, Ward is probably going to know his son because I'm going to introduce him to him. And his son is a Mitt Romney type RNC guy. I don't know what happens at his house at dinner. I mean, I don't know. I just if I was Juan, I would leave. I wouldn't even be on that show.
I know, but he's probably making a fortune by entertaining.
That's why he's staying there. Yeah, that's why he's staying there.
Right. Definitely.
But as a man, I would not subject myself to what Juan Williams does, because
I agree.
He's been made a fool every time he. Tonight's episode was. Everybody
really
should watch it. It was.
They should. Everyone should watch The Five on YouTube tonight.
I agree.
That happened today because it was a festival. Yeah,
it was.
Anyway, you guys have a great night. Thank you, Hutch. I'll speak to you soon.
All right, Valerie. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Valerie's in Boca Raton, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, 206. Well, better get the area code in there. 412. Why is this sticking to the table? 412-206-6208. We're almost out of here. Actually, you probably shouldn't call right now. It's probably not a good time. Sal, how can people get in touch with you, man? Great episode, man.
Yeah,
I mean it,
you,
man.
Hunter.
It was a good one.
Yeah, it was great to talk, and let's see how everything all plays out. You reach me on Twitter, Sal, SALATCWR.
My man. Again, good show. We had Roger Simon on. We'll catch you guys on Friday. I'm out here at studio number 2. The Pennsylvania State Fishing Championship is coming up in my area. I'm just south of the New York state border. We're going to run through another night, then we're going back to the headquarters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania next week. Values Voter Summit coming up. Do you want Cold War radio coverage of this massive event? Go to SteelCityResistance.com. Hit the donate button in the right column. All donations go to Mona Salama to get her there to represent us. Please help us out. CPAC up next after that. Go to rsbn.bandcamp.com. Support Jacob Seals in the background. Thanks for letting us into your life for a couple hours, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., studio number 2. God bless.